CC レモンね。行ってきます。ピザお弁当。行ってきます。バーとカバン。
行ってきます。
ホーナー服。
おいしい
CC レモン。
Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the Wednesday Night Mouse Party. DM Foss. And tonight we have Guns Barbecue. Oh, hold on there. Not so fast. Wait just a minute. Where'd it go? I know it's here.
And now, making his way to the ring, weighing in at 245 pounds, standing an astonishing 5 feet 10 inches tall, the reigning U.S. middleweight late night firearms champion, Guns and Barbecue.
Woo! I'm too lighter than Mankato.
How's it going, Barbecue?
That's all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. And DJ? DJ Play Nice. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, man. Always looking good and feeling fine.
And Cowgirl Candace. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
And here we have Baron SVG.
How's it going?
It's going
I
pretty
slumbered
good.
last week.
Well, you kind of needed it, so it's understandable. I sleep on the show. You sleep instead of the show. But I'm glad to have you back. So let's see who was out there real quick. DJ Play Nice was out there in the chat, and Caucasian Sasquatch was here, but went to bed. Gunpowder Beauty, good to see you, ma'am. Guns Barbecue, Gun Websites, saying he's the 5th thumbs up. And then also the number for the Capitol Switchboard. If you're into guns and stuff, contact your senator if you do not like the new laws that are being proposed. Give them a call and let them know that you do not agree. And the Senate contact page. Thank you, DJ. Tim S is out there. And 2 Live Moo. Sharon Hinchcliffe. Good evening, ma'am. And I think that's what we got for what we can see. Welcome, everybody. And, let's get that going. So there's a way you can contact me if you want to send in suggestions, comments, or Gorn gun pictures. We always like to look at gun pictures. And what? So, yeah. Where am I?
No idea.
I don't either. That's the problem. So we got
Discord?
emailing. Discord. Yes, there's a link to the Discord server in the description. The overnight Discord. It's a place to kind of hang out, chit chat, kind of like a forum for the 20th century, 21st century. What century are we in? For the 18th century. Kind of modernized forum. Just a place to hang out, chit chat, have fun, share pictures, memes, and whatnot.
Anybody can join up, read through, post, whatever you'd like.
And, what else? So there is, let me copy this real quick. Copy that and get out chair and paste that there. Here's a link to this week's poll that I put out that we'll get to here in just a second. Just want to say good evening to Tara Smith's Kitchen. And we'll take a look at the poll. Share the link, get that there, and there we go. So this week's poll was, which superpower would you rather have? You could fly like Superman, but only for 2 miles per day at half a mile per hour. Run as fast as the Flash, but only for 1 mile per day. Susan Richards type invisibility, but you constantly fart. Hulk like super strength, but only 15 minutes per day. And Brainiac intelligence, 1 hour per day, but for 23 hours, you're a slobbering moron. We had 45 votes. You can still vote. And we had 4% said Brainiac intelligence. 13% said run as fast as the Flash. 13% said fly like Superman. 24% said invisibility. And 44% said Hulk like strength. I probably would have. Oh, go ahead.
There was no downside to the Hulk one, right?
Just that it's limited.
You should have said but you're insanely full of rage and you kill everything around you for those 15 minutes, right?
Well, like the Superman one, he is so overpowered. I had to throw on a bunch of caveats. The short mileage and then low speed, because originally it was just going to be 2 miles per day, but he could fly like 1,000 miles per hour. And so I just tried to tie in which comic book character also had that power.
I feel like I'm already a bumbling idiot, so I'd just go for the knowledge.
I would have went with the speed, run like Flash, because not only would you be able to get to somewhere fast, but just like in a self-defense situation, I can move quickly. That's the first thing I thought of. But let's go take a look at the comment. I forgot to open the comments part, and we'll sort by newest first. And DJ Play Nice said invisibility. He no longer has to blame it on the dog. Mandatory Carry said none of the above. I might as well be crippled with these options. TPC Cook said I prefer being me. Well-educated, actual human. I hate comic books. Gun Website says flying is the least fake option. Philo said farting is a deal killer. Jason Stewart said I already have superpowers 24/7. Night Shaft, let me open up there, said option 6, teleportation, but it's completely random and your clothes don't teleport with you. I almost put that in as an option. Yeah, I can only put 5 options in a poll, and there's a limitation on how many characters you can use. I think it's like 65. So that's why a couple of those are kind of strangely worded, just so I could cram in the idea of what I'm trying to get across. Option 7, shape shifting, but you can only shift into shapes of people who are incredibly infamous.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, that would suck. Mandatory Carry said this is how you curse a superpower properly. TJ Mars, Hulk for me would be best. 15 minutes is plenty of time to do what I want. The problem with speed is that you need to get back
from wherever I came from. The same applies to flying. Invisibility wouldn't be useful unless the farts were silent. And intelligence would be overrated. I'd rather be normal in that aspect.
So correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to nerd out here for a second. Visible Woman is invisible because she can create a force field around her body. Am I wrong?
I believe so.
So couldn't she create a force field around the fart and contain it?
Yes, I think she could, but not in this scenario. I have to to fit in with the poll, I have to put limitations on.
Gotcha.
Thank you to everybody who participated in the poll and who might still participate, since you have the link now.
I picked the least popular option.
The Brainiac? So you're the one person that voted for Brainiac?
I'd love to have a full hour before I'm a slobbering moron. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge comic book fan, but I enjoyed them. I never got into them where I know all the details of any certain comic. It would just be I like X-Men stuff, so I would look at some X-Men comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then talking with friends who were more into it, then I would find out, more about the characters and stuff. And that's where a lot of what I know about comics comes from, is other people that I've talked to. And because I'm not sure, like the X-Men cartoon, the one from the 90s, was it early 90s or late 80s? 90s, yeah, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how closely that follows the comic itself.
About as close as you can with like a Saturday morning cartoon.
I think those were better than the newer X-Men movies, personally. But that might just be some of the member berries.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
That was a great TV show. I used to watch that.
Gunpowder Beauty. Oh, go ahead.
Then they had the animated Spider-Man show right after that.
Gunpowder Beauty said, I'd run a super fast. You can imagine the calories you'd burn in that bit of time. I thought about that was kind of one of the caveats I was going to put on the super speed, was you had to constantly eat or you'd die because you're burning calories. But couldn't figure out how to pare it down where it made sense and fit into the character limit. Tim S said, I'd like to change my answer to invisible and fart a lot.
It's a good pick. That would have been my number 2.
He said he's got the gas down pretty good. So the invisible part is a bonus. Gunpowder Beauty's asking, with the invisible part, is it including clothes, or do you have to be naked to be invisible? It's your choice. If you want to be naked, you can be naked. But you don't have to be. Anybody else in the comics at all growing up?
Not while I was growing up, but by the time disposable income in the mid 90s, early 90s came, I turned into one for about 2 years.
That is probably around when they started because in early mid 90s ish, when comic book prices were way up, the comic book companies started republishing for collecting, which kind of did the opposite of what everybody wanted, because everybody would buy 2 or 3 of the comics, and which made them all worthless.
Yep, they thought they were making an investment.
Same thing happened with ball cards in the same era.
Yeah. Which, you know, I did buy some. I've got some upstairs that, but they were stories that I liked. I didn't, you know, I wasn't buying to collect them. I just bought them because either I liked the artwork on them or, you know, the story in them. And I've got some old ones. I've probably the best one is the old X-Men, where it tells the story of how Xavier lost his legs.
I don't know that story.
It's one where he gets in the car crash with his brother, right?
I actually don't remember. It's been so long since I've looked at it, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Because my uncle had a bunch of comic books, and back in the 80s, they were in it's a big playhouse that my granddad made for my aunts and uncles. It was kind of looked like an alpine shack, you know, with the real steep pitch to the roof. Pretty cool. And I found a bunch of old comic books in a box in there, so I, you know, asked him if I could have them, and they let me take some. I know there was one other really good one, X-Men one, that I had that the dog ate. And I don't remember what the story in it was. I just remember being I wasn't really upset too much with it. You know, I was disappointed with the dog for eating it, but, you know, it was kind of my fault for leaving it out.
Should have left out that homework, boss.
I know. Tim says, if I remember correctly, the Invisible Man had to be in the buff. His clothes just gave him away. That's true.
That's the H.G. Wells version.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
The Kevin Bacon movie one I didn't think was that good. Did anybody else see that one?
I did not. I've seen the Chevy Chase one, the original, like, Universal horror from the 40s, and then the remake that was a few years ago.
Who was in the most recent remake?
Nobody.
So it must have done really well.
Oh, it was atrocious. Horrible. Don't watch it.
I did dig the original. The ones intervening in the most recent I have not seen, however.
I haven't seen them either. Yeah, the Kevin Bacon one was Hollow Man from 2000. Tim S is saying the Chevy Chase one was good too.
You remember he could only eat translucent food, otherwise you'd see him digesting it.
I don't think I ever saw it.
So what was the...
Yeah, I watched Hollow Man like a couple weeks ago.
What did you think
good?
about it?
It was very, very cheesy.
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out on DVD, so it's been a while. But I don't think the special effects would hold up. Burnaby Sanchez is out there. Good evening.
So what was the original question? Anyone into comic books?
Yeah.
First comic book I got was Death of Superman. Anyone else get that?
No, I remember looking at it, but I didn't buy one.
I do have, and like at least a couple of the variants, but way after its original release. It was like, digging in bins where they were, the prices were like chopped down to nothing. Little speculation.
When I was in grade school, I had a friend that got the issue 1 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh.
I remember looking at that. I never got one, but it was pretty cool. I have a Speed Racer. They put a Speed Racer one out, the reissue of number 1. But that was, I think that was in the mid 90s when they were reissuing stuff. And I think the most valuable one, which is probably only worth, like, last time I looked, which was more than 10 years ago, maybe $20. Shadow Warriors, they were a character that was in the Punisher, and they did I don't know if it was a graphic novel, so it was like a one-shot issue. But the artwork on it's pretty good. PNW Woods saying, I have to admit I never bought any. I was a huge D&D nerd, so my comics reflect that.
And you often got the supplies for both of those at the same spot. Comic shops that were also D&D, they kind of went together around here at least.
He's saying ElfQuest and Gru the Barbarian. I only played D&D a little bit in, I think, grade school. And then middle school, we got into Middle Earth role-playing, MERP, which was a little broader in what you could do. But the friends that I'd play with, they were Catholic, and their mom did not want them to play that. So we'd have to play quietly in the middle of the night.
Is it the wizards and witches and stuff?
It got to where you could have spaceships and stuff.
Well, I meant the Catholic thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, kind of. I don't know if anybody remembers the
Satanic Scare.
Yeah, well, it was around the same time the Tom Hanks was a TV movie, Wizards. Is that what you just said?
I didn't say that, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Tom Hanks, because it was called like Wizards and Demons or something. Mazes and Monsters, where the kid gets into D&D and goes crazy and kills somebody because he's living the fantasy.
But what year was that, Bob?
82.
I don't recall that. I do remember there being a backlash, but not associated with the film. All of a sudden, it was like not cool to use your imagination, and you could only think about, I don't know, the supernatural and the devil when you were in church. It was kind of a drag.
Yeah. I don't remember. All I really remember about it is him when he's stuck in the fantasy, kind of wandering around the streets, and then ends up killing a guy because he thinks he's a demon or monster or something.
Totally normal, right?
Yeah. Demes says, yeah, D&D was my thing. Then Conan graphic novels. Heard about Middle Earth. We lost Barbecue. Gunpowder Beauty says, I had Tales from the Crypt comics. That's as far as I got.
Bet you those were fun.
Yep, there you are.
Wrong button.
Tara Smith says, I was barefoot on concrete, covered in sweat, getting electrocuted while beating the hell out of a guitar when not doing farm work. Never bought comics. My son has a lot of comics.
Yeah, I gave most of mine to my nephew. He's got them now. And he immediately wanted to sell them for the money and then buy something better. I was like, you little bugger. That was not the intent.
Well, he's a entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah, he sold them back to me.
At a profit?
Yep.
Business genius.
Oh, Gunmetal Guy USA. Good evening.
I figured they went up once, they'll go up again, so.
Heck yeah, if you hang on to them long enough, you just got to wait for everybody to get rid of theirs. Then yours goes up in price.
I have a couple that are worth a good amount, but I don't know why would you buy them when you can just like get a digital version for $3 online?
I still prefer the physical media. Holding the thing.
But if it's like $500 or $5,
Buy the reprint.
Well, that's a thing where then you don't understand collecting.
I clearly don't.
I don't
want to buy some comics.
I don't collect for value. I've got a few different collections, I guess you call them. I just collect things that I like. I tried when I was buying silver. I was thinking, I'll buy silver, hang on to it, because there's people that they're called silver stackers that hoard silver. And so I started buying silver and I realized I'm not enjoying this. So I started just buying silver rounds that I thought looked nice, where I got enjoyment out of that. I didn't enjoy just having silver. And outside of, there are people that do that because they believe they can use it for barter when society collapses, which I'm not in that camp, because if society collapses, there's other things that will have a lot more value, in my opinion, than silver. But I've got some lunch boxes, and none of these are pristine, just because I don't want to pay the high prices. I go for in okay shape, but then things that I look at them and I enjoy looking at them.
Gotcha.
And then
so what you're telling me is I need to prey on someone's addiction where they can't help but buy my $500 book.
Yes.
Okay.
I lost my thought. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. Probably wasn't important. Most of the stuff I say is not important. So I just want to say good evening to Sergeant Joe Smith. P&W Woods is saying, my buddy I grew up with had an uncle who would fill the racks. 7-Eleven would bring extras to my buddy, and he boxed them up, held them for years, sold them, bought a new car. There you go.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. They used to have comics at the convenience stores and stuff.
The goddamn Bacon's out there saying, good evening, you late night degenerates. Good evening to you. Gunmetal Guy USA saying, I'm debating a similar problem. I like books. I want to read more. Had a book that died. Debating buying Kindle. Do I go digital, saving space, or paper? Screw those trees. Shit hit the fan. No power, no read.
How do you have a book die?
I'm not sure. But I've got a few books that I love the smell of old books, that kind of musty smell.
Mm-hmm.
I love that smell.
Decades of farts absorbed in paper.
Yep. I've got my most valuable book is probably worth about $300 at least. That a friend gave me. He has the same copy, but his has an autograph, which makes his way more valuable than the one he gave me. But I love the book.
Do we get to know what book?
This is Karate by Masayama. And my friend's copy is autographed by Masayama, so it makes his really valuable.
It is fun to get the autograph copies when you can.
Yeah, it looks like they're going for. Mine would be somewhere between 250, 300. It's in good shape. It has the original cover and the original box.
Came in a box? Like a presentation box?
A cased edition.
A cardboard box, but it kind of looks like this without the writing on it. Somebody ruined the box by writing on it. But the box looks like that.
Gotcha.
And the cover of it. I want to get a good copy of his first. This is his second book. His first book is What is Karate? Then the second book is This is Karate, and then Advanced Karate, and then there's a bunch of newer ones after that.
I thought the third one would have been How is Karate?
Why is Karate?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they wrote in the book. Oh, that must be why this one's only $100.
When buying used editions of things, I sometimes will look for margin notes. I kind of enjoy something being read and being able to see literally on those pages what others' ideas might have been while reading the same words can be intriguing.
I can see that. That's part of what I like about having, rooting around and somewhere old that has stuff that's boxed up. You never know what you'll find, and then you kind of get a glimpse into other people if there's, notes or letters or stuff like that. I used to go to the junkyard, make up a reason, just make up a part that I'm looking for and just root around the cars, because there's always stuff left in the cars, in the trunks and back seats. Found some Playboys one time.
An interesting way to find adventure.
It was always fun, because you've got all these cars that come from all these different people, so you never know what they were into and what you're going to find.
like combination of like archaeology and sociology and a whole bunch of other ologies. It's pretty rad.
Did you ever find a body in the trunk?
No.
Okay.
Would you tell us if you had? Did
No.
you tell anybody when you did?
No. True Life Moo says, I autograph every book that I touch. Lowers the value in most cases. PNW Woods, oldest book I have is old school book from 1907. That'd be interesting to look at. And Sergeant Joe Smith's Atlas Shrugged is a good book to read.
Ayn Rand's not bad.
Ayn Rand is based. Not just based, but based. Drew Bradley's out there. I like getting books from secondhand stores, 10 cents to 50 cents a pop.
I used to get birthday present books from a prison that would sell their books. And there'd be like inmates that would write in the book. You'd never know what they were going to write. It was pretty funny.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you remember some examples?
Of like what they wrote?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd write scripture, but nothing's coming to mind. There wasn't like, I'm going to kill Joe in the cell down the hall. There was none of that.
Tara Smith's Kitchen says, I used to like making my book covers out of paper grocery bags in school. We drew all over them. Who else is old enough to have done that? We did that. It was basically required that we did that at our school.
I didn't use a grocery bag, but yeah, I had to do that.
We didn't have to, but I often did.
We had to. And they started coming out with the stretchy nylon type book covers, and those became the rage.
I remember those.
Yeah, I remember everyone having those and then being so tight.
What year would that have been, you young
damage to the book?
stretchy nylon thing?
Yeah, I was gonna
Like-
say I've never seen one of those.
2002.
I'm from the age of, grocery bag covers and Trapper Keepers.
Trapper Keepers. Classic.
When do you remember them? Barbecue?
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Would have been right at the end of elementary school, going into middle school.
Gunmetal Guy USA's saying the oldest books I have are a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica circa 1980s, including all the Childcraft books. Geez, I'm an old fart. That's what, before the internet, that's what we used for book reports. Or not book reports, but doing reports in school. Because we had a set of, I don't think it was Britannica. It was a different. Can't remember
World
which.
Book Encyclopedias.
No.
Those were the main competitor in those days.
I can't remember what it was. But you had to look up your subject in your set of books.
GMG referencing that set of Childcraft books. I had those from the middle 70s. It was a good time. Lots of great pictures. And a good introduction to the volumes that would follow in the regular adult style encyclopedia.
Or book. I'm just looking up encyclopedias now. Maybe it was Britannica. I'm remembering it was something different, but it wasn't World Book. I know that. I don't know. Nobody cares. Let's see. There we go. Two Live Moose says, I use grocery bags on most of my dates. I just close my eyes. Would say books aren't hardcover anymore in schools.
That's weird.
Drew Bradley has a hardback Popular Mechanics. That'd be cool to see. I've got old Chiltons, which they have water damage on them, but they're Mopar. I think I'd have to look at them, but I think it's 64 to 72, and it covers all the Mopars. It's a set of two, so they're like that thick each. But I used to pour through them and read over all the specs, all the torques. I knew all the torque specs on my car by heart because I would just sit and look through, and it's basically a technical manual, but I'd read it like it was a novel.
You were fancy pants with those hardbound copies. I only had, say, the specific paper-bound ones for whatever model it was I was working on at the time.
Yeah, now you can't get them for the new cars.
The only thing I had that was similar to that I always thought was really rad was I had a set of the shop manuals for the 70 Mercuries for the Cougars. So it was like 8 volumes, bound in red paper, and it was a small shelf basically. So it was everything that service people would have been using at the time.
I've got one book like that for the Mitsubishi Outlander that I had. It covered the body and the frame.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't what I thought it was when I bought it. I bought it off eBay for nothing. But it was kind of cool because it was very technical and covered everything that only the service shop would do. Goddamn Bacon saying everyone that owns a vehicle should have a repair manual for it. I think it's good to know about your vehicle.
I always like climber manuals over Chilton's.
Had those for motorcycles, for sure.
Yeah, I've got.
Were good.
That's the 2 or 3 climbers that I have were for my bikes.
Whenever I'm at a yard sale, because you can find, I would find climber manuals at yard sales for like $2. I'm like, I can sell this for 20 all day. Not that I ever plan to, because I'm like, I've got a motorcycle problem, so there's a good chance I could end up owning one of these. So this is a good $2 set. Now I can't ride motorcycles, and I've got a bunch of climber manuals somewhere.
I was just digging around yesterday in the office and found the shop manual, a 1968 Honda 450 shop manual, and the owner's manual for said model. And flipping through this is just, I haven't looked through this in years. I've been separated from it. And we were talking about margin notes earlier, the margin notes from the previous owner, knowing that this is how they were working on their bike and looking at turning the pages and seeing the ones that are most covered in greasy fingerprints. And imagine that, parts of the engine and reassembly are some of those pages. And so seeing that kind of thing it's taking me back to what we were talking about with the books. I'm digging on it. The illustrations are great.
Yeah, even if, when I'd work on my bike, if there's something I looked up on the internet, I would still print it out so I could read it. I prefer to have a thing in my hands when I read. I prefer to have a thing in my hand. You there, DJ? You went blank.
And
Again?
service
There it
manuals are like not that expensive. Especially you can find them used online if you have an older vehicle.
Sergeant Joe Smith is saying Encyclopedia Americana, which I think that might be the one that we had. Was the one they had. Two Live Moves does the same thing, printing stuff out. Well, now it's kind of almost a necessity where I have to print it out because if I'm doing something, I have to be able to read it, and looking at my phone or looking at a printed out page is a lot different. Tara Smith said, I took diesel mechanics 93, 94. I have manuals on John Deere, Detroit, Cummins, etc. that haven't been made in half a century. Silver 92, etc. Those would be cool to look at, I think. Yeah, the Mopar Chiltons that I was talking about, I looked them up a few years ago, and you can't find them. And when you do, they're really expensive. I'm glad I have them, even though I probably will never have a classic Mopar again. I miss my car. Yeah, it's kind of now I don't even change my own oil. I take it somewhere. I don't like laying on the cold ground as much as I used to.
I learned working on a newer vehicle, they have the oil filters. They like to stick them up way in, and you need one of those special ratchet adapters to get them.
Yeah, there's on bikes. It's a lot of them are bad that way too, where either where the filter is, it's like on the side, so it's going to dribble all over your case. Two Live Moose says, I miss my 2010 Yamaha FJR 1300. That's the bike I would like to get if I got another bike, would be an FJR.
Do it.
We have a handful of that. Damn.
But, I miss my older bikes, but I'd like a newer bike where I don't have to work on it constantly. B&W Wood says, I don't touch wrenches. Old guy with money. Hard pass. Goddamn Bacon says, I remember the June Lake Library actually had a subscription to Chilton's. If you had a membership there, saved our butts while driving. Hot Russian X's 95 Maxima around. Yeah, that's a lot of libraries will have Chilton's. Sergeant Joe Smith says, I change oil daily while on mowers, but I rebuild truck engines and transmissions too. The transmission is the one thing that I never worked on my old cars. I would change the filter, change the fluid, but the old Chrysler transmissions weren't that great. So they'd burn out. But I always had the, which one was it? Chrysler.
The torque flights. Are you looking for a particular model?
Yeah, the 727.
727s. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one I prefer over the 904. But I know, like, there's some, I've seen some twin turbo 318s with 904s that race. So the 904 isn't that bad. I just always kind of preferred the 727 for whatever reason. Moose saying his bike, I believe he's talking about his bike, top speed 157 miles per hour. My XS 1100, I don't think I ever topped that one out. It was a big, heavy bike that went really fast and kind of scared me. First time I opened it up, because it was, when it was brand new, the 0 to 60 was somewhere around 4 seconds. I think it was 4 seconds. It was faster than a Ferrari at the time. And the first time, it was when I first, I think I only had my permit, and I opened it up getting on the highway, and it scared the crap out of me. And it's like an 800-pound bike. It's a pig.
I used to wheelie mine.
Yeah, it's something I never did.
I had a 79. Yeah, that bike was freaking awesome. I did max mine out though. Problem is, if I don't know if it was from the factory or if somebody had it installed or what, it had a rev limiter on it. It only topped out at 115, but that was in 5th gear, and has only, I think it was 4,000 RPMs. And that bike didn't redline it until I think 7,500. So it still had a lot of juice to go.
Yeah, my XS 850, I think I only had it up in the 90s on a back road. It wasn't tuned right, so it would kind of poop out when you got up there. And what's that?
My uncle had my grandfather's XS 750 at the $140.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my grandfather's ready to kill him.
Yeah, my 920, the V twin, was probably only had it up to maybe 90. But it was, once I bobbed it, it was really comfortable at doing 70 down the highway. That's the one I fell asleep on.
Oh, snap.
But, it's kind of one of those micro naps where you're going and then, whoa, shit. So, because I would ride to work a couple times a week, and coming home, I'd just be dead tired. I'd fall asleep in my car driving home. And I did it on the bike and then realized I need to stop riding to work. Because luckily it was a straight stretch, and then at that speed going straight, your bike will go fairly straight as long as you're not moving around. But that was a wake-up call.
Yep. I think the only bikes in the XS line that I have never owned are the 400 and the 850.
I kind of wanted a 650 to bob. Those
everybody does it to those things, but they are so friggin' gutless. Downhill, I had trouble hitting 85 mile an hour.
That was kind of one of the things that stopped me from doing it. was being such a small motor. The 850, it wasn't quite cafe'd. I don't know if I have pictures of it on this computer.
So were all the different variations on the XS series, were those all for just that couple 3 years that they ran those?
From about 77 to 80.
77 to 79 for the XS 750 and the 850. I think the 400 went back to mid 70s. 650 I think went up to like 82, maybe 83. I'm thinking 82 though. And I think the same with the 1100 went up to like 82 or so.
I don't remember ever seeing an exit the 400 in that. Seen 650s, 850s, the 11s. Seen those around, and yeah, people bobbing them as well. Thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, with the 850 and the 750, tuning those 3 carbs was a pain in the ass to get them synced and all that.
Yep.
And the 11 was an inline 4, right?
Yeah.
They had a quad. Ugh, gross. But was it a shaft drive bike? Pardon.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I liked about them, was having the shaft drive over the chain or a belt.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
750 Virago, and I was always happy with the shaft drive.
The 650 and the 400 were still chain driven.
And so were those kickstart bikes barbecue?
The 650. Well, actually, I think all of them had kickstart. But I did kickstart the 1100 once or twice. I kickstarted the 650 on many occasions. Never had to kickstart the 750.
Be safe, Tara. She says she's got a roll.
It was definitely one of the things I wish my Virago had was the kick, because that electric start was garbage.
That's the way that on my 850, it was. It had a kickstart and electric, and the electric was weak, and there was a known problem with the starters where they were kind of weak, and then the gears didn't mesh that well, and there were a couple different fixes that kind of fixed it, but not really. My 1100 didn't have the kickstart. I'd have to roll start it, but the starter in that one was fine.
It was like those starters sounded like, when they wouldn't catch, they sounded like you were throwing gravel in a threshing machine. It was so bad. I mean, you like, it would just ring out through parking lots. People like, when it would like be cracking and crack.
I still have a shim kit that I bought that was supposed to help. It helped the gears engage better, but I had never installed it. And then the best solution that I've read was you changed you to a different starter, but you had to change that half of the case from a different bike. And I never wanted to split the case open, so I didn't do that.
I also remember it was just like it just killed batteries, like just those extra attempts, and just batteries were always an issue for me on that bike as well.
Well, yeah, my 850, you couldn't. The starter wouldn't start it from cold. It would if the bike was warm, but if the bike was cold, you had to kickstart it.
No wonder I had so much trouble. Same starter, no kickstart to back it up.
But I don't know. Kickstarting was never a problem. I would do it from off the bike, just standing next to it. So it wasn't that much trouble, as long as the bike hadn't been sitting for too long. And then the other problem is the the valves from the gas tank would stick open because they were automatic, or they were supposed to close on their own, but eventually they'd stick open and they flood your crankcase with gas. And
Oh.
if you didn't catch it, you'd ruin your bearings.
On that XV, one of the things the carb where the carbs were, and they had those rubber boots for the coming off the velocity, and if you went and you just cranked your right hand all the way under, the way that the armature would come up on the throttle, it would hang up on those sometimes. Like I found that out the hard way on the interstate. Just decided to just bury my right wrist for the first time with the thing, and it hung up. I just kept going. I had like no idea what was going on. I'd been like riding bikes, like street bikes, for maybe a month or two, and yep, realized that that's why you can kill the engine and coast to the side and then shake for a long time.
Yeah. Goddamn Bacon's asking, do all bikes have the ability to kickstart? I don't know. I don't think a lot of newer bikes have kickstarters.
Yeah, most bikes today don't come with them.
And some of the older bikes that don't have them, you can install them, but not all of them. Because I knew when I bought my 1100, it did not have the kickstart, but the friend I bought it from said I could install one if I wanted one.
Yeah, you had to go out and buy the actual kick part, but the shaft was still there.
Yeah, that was the other problem with the 850s is the countershaft bolt would break. And that was not quite a nightmare because you've got your shaft that turns and there's a countershaft bolt. There's a countershaft next to it that turns the opposite way. And there's a little bolt in there that breaks. And when it breaks off, I had to use a chisel to turn it out because I tried using a one of the back out bits and it broke it. So I ended up having to reach in there and tap it with a chisel to get it out. And you're reaching in where your hands don't fit. It was a nightmare. And then I put in a lot stronger Allen bolt that wouldn't break. Gunmetal Guy USA saying I want to buy a Ural and day trip with it. I know those are kind of cool looking, the ones with the sidecar, but they're only like 250s. I mean, they're really small motors. They're based off old Russian bike. I think they are Russian bikes. I don't know. Has anybody else seen the Urals?
Yeah,
with the sidecar.
For sure.
Drew Bradley said, one of the last bikes I had was a GSX 1100. Dumped a lot of wasteful money into that, and then started to get comfy while doing dumb stuff. The clock was ticking on me, and I knew it. Yeah, it's easy for that to happen.
Gixxers are wicked. Remember when people were street fighting those. That the biggest shift over, since the Ninjas were the thing to ride. Well, the CBR series as well, before anybody was really seriously, even in like Omaha, had Ducatis or anything else like that. Like when the Monstro came out, and there started to be a big deal. Yeah, we didn't talk about the VMAX yet, though. Has he been on one of those? Anybody?
I haven't. I've always liked the look of those. I've heard they're really uncomfortable to ride. Have you ridden one?
Once. Another one. I was a victim of my right hand again. Forget about it. Forget about it. The launch, I was all over.
Gunmetal Guy saying agreed. That's reasons for a short haul. day only exploration. Yeah, I thought about getting a sidecar for putting around with my wife and back before we had kids. I probably would have done it, but it's kind of a pain. You have to get a special license in Washington for sidecar. It's kind of a pain to get it, so I never did.
Like, how much other than what? Like, what makes it a pain? I mean, I imagine you have to like demonstrate. So you got to do like an on-bike test. But is there anything in addition to that?
Well, I don't remember exactly what you have to do now, but it's like you can't. It's not like when you get your permit where you can ride until you get your license, because if I recall correctly, you can't ride with a sidecar until you have your sidecar endorsement. So you have to do classes and stuff like that. I know there in Oregon there was like a weekend long class that you could do. I don't remember how much it was, but I don't know. It all just seemed like kind of an added pain that I didn't want to deal with.
I'd never heard of a sidecar endorsement before.
Yeah. Tara Smith is saying, my Fat Bob is a 1700 Milwaukee 8 114. The Sportster S has the new 1250 Evo.
Ooh, new Evo. Interesting. I haven't been on a sales floor in a couple of years. How long has that motor been out?
I don't know.
It says new. I just didn't know how new.
Yeah, I haven't been in a motorcycle shop in a long time. It just makes me sad.
Me too.
Drew Bradley says he had CBR 900 RR. Also, it was squirrely at high speed. It even had dual steering dampeners. Scary to ride. I never had a bike with steering dampeners.
Yeah, those things would get into tank slappers pretty easy. They were a scary machine.
Yeah, luckily I've never had a tank slapper. I don't know if I just never gone fast enough where it was become a problem.
Oh, what's really happening with the tank slapper is you end up upsetting your chassis. People think it's just a speed thing, which I mean, you can have an issue with the bearings in your neck or something like that, but really, it happens when you're coming out of a corner or something, and you end up twisting up the chassis, and now the bike wants to right itself, and it starts slapping you around. The best thing to do, a lot of people they just want to grab onto the handlebars and hold on for dear life, and now you're fighting what the bike wants to naturally do. Is literally just take your hands off the bars and just let them float back and forth between your thumb and fingers until the bike rights itself, if you're lucky enough to have it right itself before it throws you.
That's what I've had somebody tell me that before, that if you get into a tank slapper, basically let go.
You got to have some intense presence of mind on those high speed wobbling like that to be just like, I just think I'll relax here for a moment. I mean, just grabbing onto both to hold on for dear life, like Barbecue said, that'd be me.
Gotta have some big balls to let go.
Well, because that gyroscopic action makes it feel like you're just gonna get pitched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tara Smith, I'm talking to a guy about building a sidecar for my dog when I get on my feet.
Nice.
She has a big dog, big puppy.
Also, if you ever get into a tank slapper and you're lucky enough to actually ride away from it, immediately hit your brakes. not like hard or anything, but just pump them, because the pads will actually push away from the rotor. And when you first go to hit your brakes, you're going to have nothing.
Even more presence of mind. Barbecue's a smart writer. I'd end up with it.
Well, he's probably been in a lot more the way he is. He's probably been in a lot more situations than we have.
Dragon knees.
No, luckily, never had a tank slappers. Just the interest in racing, family members that race, et cetera, et cetera. Just a lot of learning through osmosis and whatnot, and being given some of that knowledge. Hey, if this happens, what you need to do. So when I can pass it on, I like to pass it on, because some of the situations, heck, some people out there probably don't even realize what a tank slapper is.
Yeah, I don't even like looking at videos of those. When you see them, it's just that you see the bike is wobbling and the handlebars are going, basically each one starts hitting the tank. Bam. Oh, you can't see my hands doing that. So you're doing that down the road. Drew Bradley says install an M2 on the side car. That would be cool. It's kind of, yeah, it would be cool. Probably better with the 30 cal than the 50 cal on a sidecar. Yeah, Tara Smith says the death wobble. The whole bike gyroscopics are off. I do miss my bike though.
You can hear it in your voice.
I was out running errands today, and there's a guy just by the house was riding his bike and pulled over for whatever reason, and I passed him. And you just look at the bike and just that feeling when you're riding. It's you can smell all the smells and hear all the sounds, and
the temperature is one of the things for me, Foss, like going in the valleys, like the river valleys here in the evenings, where you're coming up, from say elevation, and you dip down and you get like a 20-degree shift in temperature. That's a beautiful feeling in summer rides.
And it's even different than riding a bike, other than the pedaling. But, that gliding feeling is different on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I've even thought about getting a scooter. I mean, scooters aren't cool, but they're cool. They're fun. Scooters are fun. Just to tool around on, but it's, I don't know.
There are packs of them in the city now. Last couple, like the scooter thing and the mini, like the pit bike size stuff, started to gain popularity about 5 years ago, and man, last couple of years there are packs of them now, and it is really cool. I mean, it's that high 49 cc whine, but all the like I did say kids started to, at least. Yeah, see all the kids mobbing around on these things reminds me of the heady days of the mopeds of the 80s. where
Well, I was
like
going to ask you, are they mods? Do they have all those mirrors and they wearing trench coats?
we are the mods, we are the mods. Nobody, doing quite that fancy, but when it comes to modifications, yeah. And seeing that somebody will, find the new pocket bike thing that's the rage, and you see people starting to trick them out, and all the different sounds, like because I'm into sound, right? So all the different pitches of everything, and everybody riding together, and the groups, just laughing and enjoying themselves. And because of a couple of different peculiarities in local cruising laws, not only do you not have to register anything under 50 cc's, but you don't need a license for
Yeah.
it, and the cruising laws that apply to cars do not apply to them. And the city never thought about doing it for motorcycles because it was not a thing. And so, people like my age category and above, are you damn kids, kind of thing. But when I see it, it's just like, oh yeah, youth, just tossing it at the man. It's like, yep, keep rolling, guys.
Tara Smith was asking, keep the drag bars or put mini apes on my Fat Bob. My my 920 that I bobbed had mini ape hangers, which they didn't. When you looked at them, they were only I think 12-inch, so they weren't anything ridiculous. But they were so comfortable, a lot more comfortable than the 850, which were closer to drag bars. Because when I would ride, I would put, you're about it'd be about here. So, I'd be sitting about just like this, except, I'd end up just with one hand cruising down the highway. And then the 850, you're leaning forward, so it wasn't as comfortable, at least to me.
I only had almost straight bars on mine. They like rose about maybe 3 inches, and then just straight out to the sides. I dig like upper body, like shoulders and stuff, having to be that hunched over though. I did, riding around in the city, mostly short stuff and stop and go. I didn't have that kind of fatigue that I would when I would take it out on the highways on weekends or on trips. Then it was just brutal with those handlebars.
Yeah, and even with the mini apes, since I bobbed it and I took a lot of weight off it, I could still throw the bike around with no problem. It's a little different than a Fat Bob, though.
So if you choose one bike, prices, no cost, or anything like that, what would it be?
I would probably go for that FJR.
Nice. I like it.
Ducati Super Mono.
Nice. The only thing I don't like about Ducatis is the friggin' maintenance schedule on those things. It's atrocious. Every 5,000 miles, you have to have the valves adjusted.
Yeah, in the '90s, watching the Super Mono racing class was one of my favorites to watch. After watching Katie Roberts and the other racers, like going back to those smaller, lighter, single cylinder racing. I mean, that's like heritage racing in a way. I know it's a little bit niche, but that was kind of my jam.
Those are always funny to listen to. The one-lungers. I put a poll out there. Have you ridden a motorcycle?
So if I had to choose one, I'm stuck. I'd either probably end up going with a 2004 RC51 in the Nikki Haley edition. But I really, really want a 2006 Yamaha R1 in the 50th anniversary yellow.
R1s, that style.
There's I've seen pictures of people who take the R1, I think the R1 or I can't, well, no, I don't remember. It's R1 or R4 front ends and put them on the God, what the hell were they putting them? I was thinking it was the 920, the V twin, but it might have been the 850s that I'm thinking of. But taking the newer front ends and putting them on the older bikes
Interesting.
and making cafe racers. So it must have been the 850s I'm thinking of.
That was the thing with the GSXR front ends too, and like people would like flip them. I remember that being a thing. But but since the new Century, completely out of bikes. All I do is see them on the street, kind of thing. No more magazines, nothing.
I had debated changing the front end on the 920 to a different style. I even bought bearings, figured out what bearings to change, and just never did it. Terry Smith is saying, remember mixing oil and gas? Injectors never worked on my 74 and 76 Kawasaki's. Just mixed it.
Yep.
I still love the sound and smell of a two-stroke.
Yamaha R5.
That's more just, reminiscing. When I hear one or especially smell one, even if it's a chainsaw motor, but that two-stroke, it just takes me back.
Same. I'm actually picturing the 70s right now.
When I was in grade school, my sister got a mini bike, a little 50cc mini bike, and I would ride it, and I had to be 5, 6, somewhere around there, because it was before my dad died. So I had to be somewhere around maybe 6 years old. And I ride it, but I didn't understand shifting. So I would, hit the throttle, let off the throttle, and then shift. So boom, shift. And my sister would always yell at me, and I never understood what I'm supposed to be doing with shifting.
Like introduce whiplash to yourself at an early age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you speed up and then you slow down to like a mile per hour and then shift. That's You're saying something, barbecue?
Oh, I just look nice to the whiplash.
Yeah, I hit a tree in that friend's house. It had to be like 4 trees, small trees. So we just do a little figure 8 through the trees, and I nailed the tree because I, like 6 years old.
Yep.
That's one way to stop. So the other 3 panel members have not been saying a heck of a lot with this motorcycle thing. Is G-Waves even awake? I don't think I've heard him like in the whole cast.
I don't know. But I don't think anybody wants to talk motorcycles because everybody left out in the
We're
chat.
supposed to be awake?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about bikes.
They probably left when I got all technical about tank slackers. They're like, okay, we're not here to learn. Be quiet, blind guys.
I know they're really good for organ donations.
Because if you're that banged up, let's say your internals aren't in good condition either normally.
Even darker.
Yeah, it's when I rode like everybody was trying to run me over. I didn't trust any other cage out there on the road. I would always find a pocket in traffic and stay in the pocket. If it started getting crowded around me, then I would either speed up or slow down to get out of that crowd. It's, so there weren't cars around me to run me over.
I enjoyed how the city would keep me on my toes for that kind of thing, but I was also, grabbing it at the green light and mashing it at the red, just all kinds of stop go, having a really good time in my early 20s with it. But the extra challenge is one of the things that I liked. So I didn't really know what the enjoyment of riding the bike was like until I would go outside of the city and be able to just lock it down and not have to like constantly be, twitching and paying attention to so many things, enjoy what was going on around me a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, my favorite is, a good long stretch with some curves, but not super tight, windy, so you're kind of just drifting around, but not looking to race a corner or anything, but just out cruising.
What's best carry method for a bike?
Whatever's not going to have your gun fall out.
Shoulder holster with the coat on?
If you're worried about going down, it's all going to hurt.
Yeah, for a dirt bike, a chest rig. For street bike, just whatever. I didn't carry when I rode my motorcycles. That was before I carried. But I would probably still just inside the waistband.
Well, I was just thinking for the seated position on a bike, it'd be like if you can open carry, like what about like a drop holster, something down on your thigh, because that way you're not reaching up around your waist. You still got one hand on the handlebar. No,
I wouldn't want that just because it would move your holster horizontal.
Got it.
What were you saying, Barbecue?
I was going to say I always carried at like the 4 o'clock position outside the waistband. If I carried when I rode, that is.
Were there times where you chose not to specifically, and if so, why?
I just wasn't carrying on a regular basis then.
So, we are coming up on the hour and a half mark. Midnight. We usually shut her down about midnight. So, Barbecue. You said you're suspending your nightly show for a while?
Hopefully until like Tuesday. We'll see what happens. Doing some brainstorming. Hopefully I get things caught up here where I can actually spend more time with that brainstorming and come up with a kind of a format for the show and just reevaluate everything, direction, things like that. See how I can make it most useful to the cause. But like I said, I've been so busy with stuff around here. We'll see what happens. But like I said, the goal is to be back at it on Tuesday, but we'll see.
Let me do this. Where to go? There you are. Because he might be asleep. Gear websites for your 2A related stickers, patches, t-shirts, and whatnot. Check out gearwebsites.com. Can somebody drop a link out in the chat for me? Because I forgot to do that.
You got it.
Are you there, G-Webs? Any last words? Going once? Going twice? I still hope you have a good evening. DJ?
Oh, yeah.
Anything you want to plug?
I do. In the text chat, I have dropped the links to the Senate portal, the House portal, and also the phone number is out there for the Capitol Switchboard. Capitol Switchboard can get you to anybody in DC pretty much that you want to speak with. And I would encourage everyone to do that until see each other again. Be safe, have fun, carry your guns, and rock.
And I almost forgot to end the poll. So 7 votes and 71% said yes, they've ridden a motorcycle. 28% said no.
I have a theory.
Yeah, what's that?
Everyone that didn't ride a motorcycle has already left the show.
That's possible. Nobody wanted to hear about motorcycles. Screw your motorcycles. I'm out of here. Candace, what you got going on? Anything you want to plug or anything coming up?
Nothing yet. I'm going to be getting ready to start making videos here in maybe 2 weeks.
Do it. Do it. That's good. That's something I've wanted to see for a long time, is to see you making some videos, getting some of that knowledge out there.
Likewise.
Baron, anything you want to plug?
It's been an interesting week. Let's just say this. I am so close to making another video. I'm sure some people know what that means. I am so close.
Well, I just want to thank everybody that's been out there in the chat, and those who commented and those who might not have commented. Appreciate you coming and hanging out. And for everybody on the panel, thank you for jumping in. And for those who might watch this in replay, I thank you too. Leave a comment. Let me know you are out there. Anything we talked about, kind of keep the conversation going. But let me open that, and there we go. So other than that, I hope everybody has a good night.